Hey, we talk baseball transfers for the national champion Ole Miss Rebels right here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Stick around.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Welcome to this extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Ole Miss made a little bit of transfer waves over the last week. We wanted to get Derek Vandygriff on to talk about it. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. Find the latest sports developments, league reviews, news, and all of this year's playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Derek's going to come on and be our college football betting guy, so we'll be doing that a little bit in the future. Anyway, betonline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcast, and news this season. It's the fastest and easiest way to check on your favorite sports events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your number one listen every day. I need to change this real quick. I did not get this started. Okay, I'll just take that off. Derek Vandygriff joins me to talk a little bit about what's going on. How you going, Derek? We hadn't talked since, I guess, right after the national championship.
Yeah. Day I got back from Omaha, actually. I was just thinking about that before I hopped on here. It's been a while. I've been doing pretty good, trying to stay cool out here in North Mississippi. It's pretty blistering. It was about 103-degree heat index around 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning. So it's been blowing and going here.
Good grief. Whenever I hear the weather from like Middle Tennessee and Northern Mississippi, I'm just so thankful that I actually moved to Florida, and that is absolutely bizarre to say.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me any, though. I don't mind the heat. I'd much rather be hot than cold, so I'm in the right spot.
All right. Let's start to go over these transfers a little bit. Tell us what you've heard. What's going on?
Obviously going into the national championship game, broke that night before that we'd gotten Nick Pogue out of Florida. He was a really talented arm coming out of high school. I think he was like number 73 overall in the country. Had Tommy John surgery in 2021, missed that entire season, come back this past year and pitched fairly well for Florida. You could probably assume that he wasn't back 100% healthy. But he made 10 starts. I think he went like 4-2 or 4-3, something like that, a 4.21 ERA somewhere in there. He pitched okay coming off Tommy John surgery. You would think once he's fully healthy and gets his arm built back up the way he used to, he'll probably be a little bit better. I think he sat around 88 to 90 this year. Coming back from the surgery. So there's people projecting him getting up to 92 to the mid 90s by the time he's fully recovered and healthy. And, that's a pretty big arm you can add to the rotation next year potentially. And, it sounds like we'll probably have a couple spots to fill in that rotation as it sits now, according to what happens to Dylan DeLucia.
Okay. What are you hearing on Dylan DeLucia, by the way? Where's that going? Because I believe he's a sophomore, but he is draft eligible.
Yeah, he is draft eligible. From what I saw last night, they projected him kind of a mid-round day 2 pick, something like that. And that's more than likely he would end up going at that point. If he's in that range. But it also kind of depends what the team that drafts him is offering him. You have all these slots in baseball, and everybody thinks that, well, if you're drafted in this spot, you get this money because that's what the slot is. But that's not really how it works. I mean, they can sit there and manipulate the slot any way they want to. They can underpay the slot. They can overpay the slot. And a lot of teams will sit there and try to plan out their draft where, they'll draft somebody in the first, second, third round and pay them, like 20, 30% of slot value. That way they have that money left over in the later rounds or vice versa. So they can go get somebody else they didn't think they'd be able to sign at that point. But really all it is as far as the slots and all that, it's basically just a big pool, They just break it down into slots like, well, out of this pool you can pay this first round pick this much money, but they can really pay them whatever they want to, as long as they don't use up their entire allotment of pool money for the entire draft. So it's kind of tricky the way they do it. But from everything I'm hearing, everybody expects DeLucia to be gone. But you just never really know. It's kind of like Kumar Rocker last year. He was taken 7th, 8th, 9th overall, something like that by the Mets, and nobody expected him not to sign and to be back out there. And he didn't come back to Vanderbilt. He went and played some independent ball and stuff like that. But the point being is you never know how the draft's going to turn out until that deadline comes for players to sign and for them to come back to school. But they think he's gone right now, but you just kind of got to let it play out and see where everything falls.
All right, Pogue is going to Ole Miss. Is he projecting potentially into the starting rotation? Because if DeLucia's gone, Ole Miss has to replace 2/3 of it.
Yeah, I think he is, especially if he gets that fastball back into the, 92 to 95 range, something like that. That's kind of what you're looking for out of your starting rotation, isn't it? And he actually pitched out of the bullpen as a sophomore and pitched pretty well. Didn't pitch a lot out of there, but had 5 appearances and didn't give up a run. I think he'd give up 1 hit pitching out of the bullpen. So it doesn't seem to bother him, kind of like it did DeLucia a little bit. We kind of talked about that throughout the year, how DeLucia struggled out of the bullpen just because he wasn't used to it and kind of threw him off a little bit. So even if he is needed out of the bullpen, it sounds like that's maybe something he could do. But we're going to be mixing and matching a lot of guys. You still got Washburn there too. Mallets and Mason Nichols. The way they progress, you can only assume they're going to take another big jump for us next year. So those are 2 candidates. And then another candidate is the guy I'm sure we're about to talk about here in a minute, Xavier Rivas. He's a big lefty. He's kind of a John Gaddis type thing, really, when you think about it. He's come from Division II, a small school, but he's a big lefty, and he's got really, really good stuff and really fits the coaching staff really well. He's a fastball slider guy, and that's kind of Mike Bianco's go-to man right there. If you get him a big lefty that's going to throw a fastball and slider, that's kind of what he looks for, and that's what Rivas is. He's 6'4", 215 pounds. I mean, pretty big dude. He's a sophomore, so he's still got a lot of room to grow as far as being able to develop and stuff like that. And boy, he's coming to a heck of a place for the way we develop pitching. I know Mike and them can't wait to get their hands on him.
Yeah, I think he liked a post by your dad, by the way.
My dad?
Or somebody on Twitter. Is that Michael Vandygriff?
Oh, no, that's my cousin.
Your cousin. He liked a post by your cousin.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. He made some kind of comment about running it back-to-back national championships, and he liked that as well. But I think potentially with Hunter Elliott being potentially the Friday night guy, I think Rivas might be the Sunday guy, and Pogue could fit in, and they put the righty on the Saturday. But two really good left-handers bookending a right-handed typical power pitch, and they all are going to kind of look differently. Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting for the Rebs.
Yeah, and that's something they kind of try to do when they're able to, when they have the pieces to do it, to kind of break it up, whether it be pitching or hitting. They don't like putting consecutive righties, lefties, anything like that in there. And again, we still have other options beside those guys. Washburn looked really good. He got hurt in South Carolina, and that kind of set him back a little bit. But by the time postseason rolled around, he pitched some pretty big innings for us, and he looked really good doing it. So he's definitely going to have something to say about the starting rotation. And like I said, Mallett, that's my dude right there. I just love watching him pitch. I think he's got probably the best pitch on the team. And so yeah, it's going to be a heck of a battle to see which 3 ends up landing on. Obviously, Hunter Elliott's definitely got the upper hand. I think he's a clear-cut Friday night ace, just the way he pitches the ball. And can't wait to see what he's going to do as a sophomore. But yeah, it's going to be a fun competition seeing who all that he has in there. And I'm sure they're not done in the transfer portal yet.
Yeah, and it should be interesting to see. The other thing that I want to talk to you about, you're going to come on board during football season and kind of being the college football betting guy on the show.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the betonline.net lines?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. I actually started using BetOnline during baseball season. It's the only place I could get college baseball lines at. So I kind of hopped on there and started doing that during the college baseball year. And boy, I tell you, there's some money to be made during college baseball. They hadn't quite caught up with that sport yet. There's some pretty big plus signs that you can really hammer and make some money on with them. But yeah, college football, I've been gambling on it for a few years now. Nothing extreme or anything. That's kind of the big thing. If you're going to gamble, make sure you do it responsibly. Don't bet anything that you can't lose. It's supposed to be fun, and it is a lot of fun. It gives you reasons to watch other games and other conferences, and so if you're a college football fan, and you got a little extra scratch to throw out there week in and week out, we're going to try to build you a little bit of a bankroll and see if we can't get you interested in some other conferences, get you watching some other teams, because there's definitely some money to be made, especially earlier in the year before Vegas catches up with some of these teams. Last year, my two teams that I was able to hit on early was Illinois and Army. I mean, it took Vegas a while to catch up with those two teams, and quite frankly, they never caught up with Army. They were a money maker all year long last year for me. But they do eventually catch up with most teams, though. So that's kind of something you got to watch for. But like I said, if you do gamble, make sure you do it responsibly. Don't put more on it than you can afford to lose. And I look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think right now it's either Monday or Tuesday we're going to do really early in the week. Yeah. It should be a lot of fun. But anyway, Derek, man, thank you very much. We learned about the transfers, and we'll look forward to having you back during the football season, bud.
Very good, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right, hi, Toddy.
Howdy, Toddy.